Hey everybody and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Tami. Tami is an international software development company that designs, builds and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. Each week we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. Today we have an amazing guest joining us. Mike Lawton, who is serial entrepreneur and founder of Oxford Space Systems, Oxlabs, and Oxford Dynamics. Hello, Mike. How is your morning? How are you?
Hi, yes. No, morning is going well, and thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to talk today.
Oh, thank you that you find actually that you made time to join us today. And before we jump into the question about your companies, about your entrepreneurial journey, entrepreneurial style, let's say, I want to deep dive into the discussion of your personality, about you, who you are actually, who is Mike. So my first question will be, if you could have any superpower to help you in your entrepreneurial journey, what would it be and why?
I would say empathy, which is probably an interesting answer, but as we talk and discuss my journey, you'll understand why I think empathy is actually a very important property for any leader to have or any entrepreneur to have.
Yep. It's really important, as networking is also somehow connected with empathy. Yes, and it's really important to be empathetic during your entrepreneurial journey. It's key in your success. So my second question, again, imagine you have a time machine that can take you back to the early days of your first tech business. What piece of advice would you give your younger self?
I would, it's going to sound a strange answer, I would say worry less about the competition and focus more on how I'm going to delight the customer, how I'm going to exceed my customer's expectation, and then flip it such that the competitors need to worry about me, not the other way around.
Wow, interesting. Let's move to the next question. If you had to describe your entrepreneurial journey using a movie title, which movie title would best represent your experiences and why?
I don't know, probably an old movie, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. I think the entrepreneurial journey can often be chaotic. You've got to pivot, you've got to be inventive. And if you're trying to get from A to B, the only certainty is the journey is never going to be that straight linear direction you think it's going to be. You're going to have a lot of chaos along the way. You're going to find many properties out about your personality. And because the journey it is inherently difficult. And I think that's probably one of the reasons a lot of businesses fail. It's not because of the technology or maybe or even the market. I actually think it's because a lot of entrepreneurs just give up when that journey gets really tough.
And it's really connected with the fact that we need to enjoy, let's say, the journey, not the destination, the result, because the journey is most enjoyable process during reaching those goals, aims.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you think you're going to enjoy every single day and every single experience, then you're deluded. Because there will be some huge challenges. And I liken actually being an entrepreneur. It's a bit like whitewater rafting. You know, the highs are incredibly exhilarating, the adrenaline's in the bloodstream, and life could not be better. But gosh, you know, the lows can be crushingly low. You know, it's like falling out that whitewater raft and nearly drowning. So yeah, the highs are fantastic. The lows are equally drastic. But my gosh, it's a fantastic journey. But yeah, you've got to enjoy that journey. You've got to be in it for the long ride. And if you get to that destination, then that's an additional prize.
Starting a business from concept to fruition requires a combination of vision, execution, and adaptability. and also about ideas and innovation. Can you work us through the process of taking the idea and transforming it into a successful, sustainable business from your experience with your companies?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the idea is the easy bit. To be honest, most people tend to have great ideas, and most people, if they're lucky enough, have an endless supply of great ideas. So the trick is validating whether your idea is actually going to go anywhere. And any young entrepreneur, the trick is how quickly and how low a cost can I spend to validate whether that idea is worth pursuing. And I think that's the trick of an early stage entrepreneur. How quick and how cheaply can I validate whether this is going to go anywhere? And it's pretty easy to find, friends and family that are going to support your great idea. The real acid test is people that you don't know. And that could be investors, but ideally getting in front of your potential customers as quickly as you possibly can to see if your idea is worth pursuing, I think is the golden rule. And I see this a lot with technology entrepreneurs, actually. And I was guilty of this in the early days, being trained as an electronics engineer. We love staying in our comfort zones. We love staying in our labs behind the keyboard, coding that next line of code or soldering that next component. And we think because this technology is going to be fantastic, self-evidently people are going to buy it. And that is a classic mistake. You've really got to get out there and test your ideas against your competitors, and obviously make sure your first potential customers are going to buy that product. I would say kind of step two is, if you've absolutely convinced yourself and you've managed to get that first bit of engagement, another classic mistake with tech startups is over-engineering. They want to go to market with the bells and whistles, the final finished product, which is a killer. You've got to work out what that minimum viable product is, that so-called MVP. Get that market traction, get your first sales with the MVP, and then you've got a foundation on which to build and add all those fantastic features. And it's great for the business. It means you can charge more for the version 2, the version 3, and onwards. And then probably the third most important thing is it's not just you. You're going to need a team around you. So it's not just about having the idea, it's about the ability to communicate and enthuse those people that you need on the journey with you. And I think that's really important as a young entrepreneur, because you probably aren't going to have the money to pay that team. And therefore, how are you going to get people to work with you? Not for you, work with you. How are you going to inspire them? How are they going to follow you? Why are they going to follow you? So you need a lot of qualities, a lot of properties as a startup entrepreneur. So it's a jigsaw that you need to work out how you put together.
You've mentioned a lot of topics, which is a great question for all first-time entrepreneurs. And dealing with all of these, we can say that it is challengers. They are challengers. Dealing with those challengers, how to stay motivated, even when you are facing the first failure, the first challenge.
Yeah, it's actually looking at yourself as a person. We all have our own personal qualities, and I touched on empathy being one of them. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think a lot of early stage businesses fail, not because of the technology, not because the market doesn't fit. It literally is because the entrepreneur gives up. Life becomes tough. The road is tough. So you need to develop the approach to life, the personality, those qualities within you of persistence and tenacity, because the only certainty is there will be a challenge. But I embrace challenges because I see them as learning experiences. And of course, if I'm having this challenge, I know my competitors probably are as well. And therefore, if we're both faced with the same sorts of challenges, what is the best possible way I can approach that challenge? How do I turn that challenge into a positive opportunity? Yeah, I'm going to learn from it. Okay, what can I do with that learning? How do I ensure I don't come up against that challenge again? And if I can't directly go through the challenge, what's the smartest way around that? So you develop almost an appetite for challenges, because it means the more you get and the more you can navigate them, the more you're probably staying ahead or beating your competitors. So it sounds a weird thing to say, but relishing challenges, relishing difficulties, and being able to navigate through them makes you a much stronger person and much more likely to survive the entrepreneurial challenge. So don't be scared when things go wrong, because they will go wrong. I guarantee it. You're going to have problems bigger than you ever imagined. But it's about, are you strong enough? Do you have personal tenacity, that ability to endure and get through it? Because if you do, you will emerge much, much stronger and much more confident for the next challenge.
All of these challenges often involves taking calculated risks. Can you share a particular moment in your entrepreneurial journey where you had to make a bold decision or step out of your comfort zone?
Yeah, there's obviously quite a few examples from the various businesses over the years, but one that's probably the boldest one was setting ourselves the challenge to break a world record. So I'll give you the context. When I first proposed the idea of Oxford Space Systems, the idea of starting a brand new space hardware company that was going to develop a new generation of deployable space antennas to go onto satellites. I was told by a certain space agency not to bother, don't bother, because there's plenty of companies doing space antennas. And I said, yes, but not in the niche specific way that I think is going to dominate the market. So that was a big setback. But I kept going. I managed to have a chance meeting with an investor, and I described the business to the investor. And he looked at me about 30 seconds into the conversation and he said, Mike, let me stop you there. I'm not interested in space because as an industry, it just takes too long and costs too much. So I'm not interested. But I'm going to walk to my next meeting. So you've got a couple of minutes and I'll hear your story further. So we walk down the corridor and he says, damn, you've now caused me a problem because this is interesting. And I thought, well, okay, I actually have a bigger challenge. He is interested, but he's very skeptical about the space sector. So long story short, the follow-up meeting was, I said to him, I'm going to prove to you that we can do space technology faster and cheaper than has ever been done before. And I set the team the challenge, very small team, only 4 of us at the time. I set ourselves the challenge of developing a new product and getting it demonstrated on orbit within 26 months. And if you ask any space agency, they will typically say that could take kind of 5 to 7 years. And I said, guys, we've got to do it comfortably within 3 years because that's the time frame the investment community is going to think about would be groundbreaking. If we can deliver that, we're going to grab the world's attention. And we achieved it. So that was a huge risk, a huge gamble, taking an investor's money, saying we were going to do something faster than had ever been done before. But but we achieved it.
Did you enjoy those experiences?
In hindsight, yes. At the time, it was nerve-wracking. You can imagine when you set yourself a phenomenal challenge, you can forget having a comfortable night's sleep. But
because sometimes people prefer more like plan everything to details and only then try to execute those plans. And such kind of bold experience is really a great opportunity to grow, I believe.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. Setting yourselves what seemed like impossibly bold targets and aiming for them. It's amazing what a really motivated team can do with you. And we achieved it. We achieved something that never had been done before. And it literally trebled the value of the company overnight and put us in a fantastic position. And here today, Oxford Space Systems is one of the highest valued space hardware businesses in the UK. And it's now seen as strategically important to the future of the UK space sector. And all that from 10 years ago when it just didn't exist. It was just an idea in my head and I was being told, don't bother.
Okay, so you've already mentioned that your company, Oxford Space System, is recognized as one of the highest valued space tech startups in the UK. And what key lessons have you learned and how did you address them? during all of the times since I believe Oxford Space Systems is 3 year old, even more than 3 year old.
Yeah, Oxford Space Systems is now coming into its 10th year, but my new business is just still a baby. It's just coming up to its third birthday. Um, so there's some common lessons which I transferred from the learning experience of Oxford Space Systems into the new companies Ox Labs and Oxford Dynamics. Um, and it sounds perhaps disingenuous to engineers, but I can say it because I'm one myself at heart. The technology is the easy bit, actually. Designing and developing and producing product, be it software or hardware, that's the easiest bit in the business. The toughest bit, I think, are the people. It's building the team. You want to recruit the smartest possible people to come and work with you.
Yes.
Invariably, as a startup, you don't have the money, and simply throwing money at people in the form of high salaries doesn't actually build the best team. I look for different properties than people just simply looking for the highest number that can appear in their bank account each month. So it's building the team. So what I've learned on that journey is focus on the people, and that means you need to develop those personal qualities that make you be seen as a leader. And being a leader is different from being the boss, and that's a very important differentiation. A boss is something that you get by legal default. You founded the company, therefore you're in charge. But that doesn't mean people see you as a leader. You've got to lead by developing and living those personal qualities of empathy, trust. You've got to have a vision. You've got to be able to create enthusiasm in people. So it's all those properties and how they shape you as a person, I think, is the most important lesson that I've learned in being an entrepreneur and a leader in a tech company.
And do you believe in such formula that success means being a leader?
Yes, it does. It does. There are rare exceptions, but if you are that young entrepreneur that wants to change the world and develop a new product or service, you've got to lead people. You've got to encourage people to follow your vision, because it is going to be a tough journey. It is a pretty stressful existence in a startup. Money is the eternal concern. You will always be resource constrained, and therefore you need certain type of personal properties and qualities to attract people and keep people motivated during tough times. I keep talking about tough times. Obviously, there's a huge amount of fun to be had in a startup. It's fantastic camaraderie. You're going to build friendships for life if you're lucky, and you literally feel you're on an adventure together. And I've made some fantastic friends along the way.
What do you consider your most significant achievement, and what lessons you've learned from it? Maybe it was the most, as you said, funniest moment during your entrepreneurial journey.
I guess in terms of kind of hard achievements to the outside world, it's the creation of a space company when I had no real strong space background. So moving into a sector that I was interested in, and then within a decade generating a company that's literally known globally and seen as an asset to the UK space economy. I think that's that's something to be proud of. Obviously, a huge amount of luck along the way. I'm not saying it's down to me being somehow brilliant. A lot of luck along the way. I'm working with some fantastic people in the team. But me as a person, I think the way I've grown as an individual, I've learned you can't really have ego as an entrepreneur, even though a lot of people do. But I think you can see in the public domain how that can cause them a lot of trouble and get a lot of backlash. I think a genuine leader is humble, is non-egotistical. Your job is to put your team first. It's their welfare before yours, and that develops you as a person. And I think if you're seen as someone who cares about the team before yourself, then people naturally want to be with you and work with you and want to follow your dream and your vision. So learning how to develop those personal properties and push myself each day to live those properties, to live up those standards that I've set myself, that's what I've learned to do, and I'm quite proud of being able to do that.
You've mentioned a lot regarding that building a team, a skilled one, is really crucial for your success as an entrepreneur, as a leader, and you managed to do that. You've managed to build the skilled company or the skilled team. And what were the qualities you were looking for in your potential candidates?
In a startup, it's really important to make sure you're getting the right type of person joining the team. Of course, technical ability is key in a tech company, but you're looking for individuals that actually don't want to live in a pigeonhole, don't want to be siloed. You tend to want to recruit people that want to learn more on the business side. Maybe, yes, they enjoy designing and developing technology, but maybe they really want to come to a trade show and talk about the technology, which means they're indicating they actually enjoy a bit of business development or want to explore a bit of business development. In my latest company, with my co-founders, Oxford Dynamics, we've been very fortunate in finding really smart engineers that also want to get into project management. Not only do they want to design stuff, they want to understand, okay, well, how do we bring all these together such that we deliver to specification and on time? So having people that enjoy and want to learn and wear many hats in a business, I think is critical, because the only certainty in a startup is you will need to wear multiple hats. Certainly as a founder and entrepreneur, but you want people in your team who actually relish that opportunity as well.
Mike, I want to touch on one more topic. I've found on your LinkedIn page, you mentioned being passionate about inspiring the next generation of entrepreneurial engineers and scientists. So my question is, how do you envision the role of STEM education in fostering innovation and entrepreneurship in the software development industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. Being a white old man, I guess to many people's eyes, I totally aware that I've had phenomenal privilege in my education and my existence, and I'm old enough that when I was at school, we didn't have quite such strict health and safety. So the idea of not going to a workshop to learn technology, I was playing with chemicals, soldering, working with metal, that was how you learned technology when I was young enough to go to school. But unfortunately, due to ever tightening health and safety regulations and of course budget restrictions, the amount of hands-on time students now get to actually understand technology is obviously much less. So I think that is now giving us a huge challenge, especially in the West and especially acutely in the UK, that we aren't producing so many engineers and scientists as we could do, because we're just not inspiring that younger generation. And it's incredibly sad to see that the sector is still dominated by white men. We certainly don't reflect the diversity of society we find ourselves. So I'm really keen to help particularly females into science and engineering and those people of color as well, because the system has been incredibly biased towards white males. So the STEM activity I try and get involved in is specifically focused to that type of demographic, females and people of color. So any internships that I've managed to put in place, work placements in previous companies, there has been a bias to helping support the underrepresented in science and technology.
As you said, you are a mentor for the Santander Breakthrough Women Business Leaders Mentoring Program. What valuable insights or advice do you provide to aspiring women entrepreneurs in the software development sector to help them overcome common challenges and succeed?
A common feature that I've seen with female entrepreneurs is a lack of confidence, and therefore challenging that head on. And I think it starts at a very, very early stage in our life. And there was a fantastic study about school kids. When a school teacher stands in front of a class and asks a question, most of the young guys will shove up their hand, even if they're right or wrong. It's the male ego; they just want to be seen. Whereas it tends to be females wanting to have the right answer tend to hesitate. And we start to see that kind of reinforcing behavior. Women tend to be a little bit less confident, less hesitant. And the male idiots in the class, and I was one of them, would just shove up their hand and try and be right anyway. And I think we start to see those tendencies come into the commercial world. So the female entrepreneurs that I've worked with on various programs, the common theme is a general lack of confidence when there really shouldn't be, because to be honest, quite often they're more skilled, more knowledgeable, and actually better placed than male competitors to seize the opportunities they've identified. So the work tends to focus on making them realize that there is no grounds for being any less confident. In fact, it's the opposite. There's plenty of grounds and evidence to show that they should be more confident than some of their competitors.
That's really, really crucial, and that's a great job that you can help those women, because I can say that really in some technical skills there is stereotype that women are not really into the technology and so on, and we need to just fight with these stereotypes.
Yeah, I need to tell you something then. At Oxford Dynamics, the latest company working on AI and robotics, I will probably get shot for saying this, but it's the females that are leading the charge in the company. We have 2 female PhDs in AI on the team, and they're rock stars.
Great.
And and my co-founder is a young Indian female. So the company is co-headed up by 3 of us. There's me and another white male, but senior leadership position is equal to me as a young Indian female and leading a predominantly female development team at AI, at OD.
Wow. Actually, it was my last question, and I want to thank you for this conversation. It was a pleasure to meeting you and hear your personal story.